Welcome back to the Reading Corner here on Dreamers Defy. Now, we've been reading through Vengeful. We've got all the way through the story, and now it's kind of the prequels. Like, we are going to read the backstories, which are in here for each of the ghosts. Today, we are doing Izzy's story. It kind of goes in order from the ghosts that Abigail the way she operated through her life. Now, if you are just joining us and this is the very first time you're seeing this, look in the playlist, go all the way back to the introduction video. It will take you there. It'll give you the disclaimer. There are some very sensitive topics in this story. And of course, obviously, with how these folks became ghosts. Start there, catch up to us. You will enjoy the whole story. And when you get here, you will be happy for it. So there we are, Vengeful, and we've done every chapter. We'll start on a new book very soon, but we got to get through the ghosts first because you got to do the prequels, if you will, before we can get to anything else. So let's do that right now, shall we? Story one of the five Vengeful Spectres. This is Izzy. Izzy shuddered as an emotional outburst wailed from somewhere out in the hallway. Izzy hugged her chest, imagining she was holding her precious, long-lost doll tightly to her. Even pretending it was back with her gave her a small comfort. For a few seconds, the tortured screams drowned out the nonstop beeps, buzzes, and alarms that appeared to go off every few minutes in this ICU room that she had somehow found herself trapped in. A flurry of scrubs, carts, and tennis shoes ran past as the staff hurried inside another cubicle further down the hall. Nervous, Izzy turned her attention back to the interior of the room. Her gaze went to the man who lay motionless in a bed of stark white linens. Sad, but all he needed now was a few short walls and a lid to go on top, and then he would be all set for the coffin. "He's going to die, you know," Izzy said, knowing full well that the others would not appreciate her blunt honesty. Izzy peered down at the professor and took note of his black beard in contrast with his pale skin, then growled in frustration. "Admit it, the man's toast. He hasn't so much as twitched in 3 days." Angry, Izzy turned from the bed and came up short when Emily unexpectedly passed right through her. In a huff, Izzy watched as the young woman made her way to the man's bedside without as much as an "excuse me." "No, he's not. I told you, he's stronger than he looks." Emily tried to place her translucent hand upon the professor's, but it passed straight through. "Isn't that right, Mr. Bolton?" Izzy rolled her eyes. Emily, the new girl, not only believed her precious college professor would pull out of his death spiral, but that he would also succeed in saving them all. Afraid to hope, Izzy asked, "If he lives, what makes you so sure he'll help?" "Because that's the kind of person he is. Mr. Bolton cares about people. He'll do whatever it takes to ensure that this horrible situation is made right." "Maybe, but now he's in a coma. Even if the professor survives, which is highly unlikely, he helps the living, not the dead, remember?" Angry, Emily turned to face her. Izzy's stomach lurched as she stared down at the student's half-torn face. Emily's flesh swung back and forth like a deteriorated steak as it hung just below her exposed jawbone, torn muscles, and tendons. Using both hands, Emily held her face together to speak. "Mr. Bolton and I have a connection. He'll pull through this, and when he does, I'll make sure he helps us break free." Relieved, Izzy watched as Emily turned her mutilated face and attention back to the man in the bed. Izzy knew she should be happy that she was away from Monica and her stupid, pristine office. After all, she and the others had been trapped in that one location for nearly 4 years now. Well, everyone but Emily. She had just died a month ago and was new to all of this. Yet instead of being happy for this reprieve, Izzy was uneasy at the hospital, being surrounded by machines that buzzed and beeped 24/7, Nurses and doctors coming in and out of the room all the time left Izzy with a sense of dread every time Mr. Bolton hesitated in taking his next breath. Izzy turned and shuddered as she caught her reflection in the small square mirror that hung above the lone sink. A familiar rage rose up within her as blood-red eyes stared back at her from the smooth surface. Those eyes should have been a soft, warm brown. Instead, they were black, shot through with crimson, and bulging out of her eye sockets as if she had been hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat. Worse still was the purplish-blue skin that should have been fair, almost pink, sprinkled with freckles. Unfortunately for Izzy, that was what happened to your body when you died of strangulation. Items beside the hospital bed began to rattle as Izzy's anger grew. Andrea, the oldest spirit in the group, shushed her. Izzy, we'll have none of that in here. You hear me? Guilty, Izzy ducked her head as she took in the disapproving glares from the other four ghosts. Emily, Andrea, Tyler, and her least favorite, Richard. Izzy wanted to yell at them, to scream at the top of her lungs that they did not understand what she was going through. But regrettably for those in the room, they knew exactly what kind of pain she was in, because like her, their lives had been cut short by the actions of that evil witch she had once called a best friend. Unable to vent, Izzy chose instead to glide over to a far corner and sit. This is so unfair. None of them should be here, especially her. She had only been a kid when she died, and for the 1,000th time in 20 years she wondered, what 8-year-old ever deserved to die like I did? Lost in thought, Izzy remembered when she had first met Monica. Izzy had been shy and timid and had chosen to keep to herself. At school that day, Izzy sat back and watched as the other children gathered about the new, beautiful, and confident Monica, who had just moved there from Boston. Everyone seemed to love her on sight. Deep down, Izzy admired how confident Monica had been among the others, never bashful or unsure like she was. Maybe that was why Izzy was so surprised when just a few days after her arrival, Monica sat next to her in the school cafeteria and offered to share her lunch. Overjoyed, Izzy accepted Monica's offer of friendship without a thought or question. All Izzy could think about was how wonderful and sweet her new friend was to her. Monica always knew what to say, what to do when she was sad, and always found ways to make her feel better about herself. Izzy could not have been happier. Then, without a warning, everything that had been so wonderful changed. Izzy had been so excited to spend lunchtime with Monica that day. She grabbed her lunch and rushed to the cafeteria. But upon entering the room, Izzy's joy died in an instant when she spotted her beautiful friend at the table with the group of mean girls who always tormented her. A sick dread washed over Izzy when Monica pointed at her and laughed. She actually thinks we're friends. Everyone at the table laughed as Izzy stood there paralyzed. Did I do something to make Monica mad at me? Izzy had thought that that was the worst moment of her life, but she soon found that day was only the beginning of her nightmare. For all Izzy knew, the excruciating days that followed could have been weeks or months. It all blurred into one painful dream that she could not wake from. Then, out of the blue, the torture suddenly stopped. As she made her way to her locker, she noticed that no one stood by and laughed at her as she passed. There were no hateful notes crammed into her locker, notes that were usually so plentiful that they spilled out onto the floor every time she opened the metal door. As if by magic, Monica was back at her table, a smile on her pretty face, as she pulled out a chair, sat next to her, and acted as if nothing bad had happened. Izzy was suspicious. She should have thrown her drink in Monica's face and run far, far away from that horrible girl and get as far as she could. Instead, like the dummy she was, Izzy sat there and let Monica work her way right back into her life. Why? Because in truth, Izzy was relieved and so pathetically grateful. So much so that Izzy never once questioned Monica's about-face or why Monica had this sudden interest in Izzy coming over to her house for a slumber party. Sure, she was hesitant at first, but Monica assured Izzy that the sleepover would just be the two of them. Understandably, Izzy's mom questioned the situation, unsure about the idea of allowing her child to spend time with someone who had been so cruel. But in the end, she was worn down by the hours of non-stop pleading that Izzy had bombarded her with. After the short drive to Monica's house, Izzy found herself, sleeping bag in hand, standing before the large house as she waved goodbye to her mother. With her fear shoved aside, Izzy forced a smile, marched up the long sidewalk to the house, and rang the bell. Excitement turned to fear as the door swung open and revealed Monica, a cruel smile on her face, standing before the pack of mean girls who gleefully waited to ambush her. Izzy's body quaked as she turned, scanned the empty street behind her, and realized she was trapped and alone. Izzy's mind had reeled so violently that she barely noticed the eager hands that took hold of her arms and dragged her inside. Monica's little house of horrors. Even now, as she sat there in the hospital, her eyes fixed on the sleeping man, Izzy could feel the bile rise in her throat just as it had all those years ago. Damn it. If only she would have stayed home that night. If only she would have questioned Monica's motives. If only she would have been smarter. If only she had been surer of herself. If. None of that mattered now, because she had done none of those things, and it was too late. Once they had Izzy inside the house, Monica playfully pulled her upstairs as the other girls shoved and pushed her back. Like a lamb led to slaughter, Izzy had allowed herself to be taken into Monica's room, mute and dumb, as she searched the cruel faces of the others and found no pity. Funny, even now Izzy wondered why Monica's parents had not been at the house that fateful night. Heaven knew that her own mother would never have left her and her friends unsupervised. That night, the haze of confusion and panic had cut off Izzy's ability to reason. Dazed, she watched as Monica motioned to a noose that hung from a pretty hot pink light fixture in the center of the room. The full-size bed had been moved to the wall to allow space for a single chair to sit beneath the noose. Monica pulled Izzy close and whispered, "All you have to do is hang there a few seconds." Shocked, Izzy recoiled. "What? No." Ill at ease, Izzy watched as a cruel smile formed on Monica's lips. "You want this all to stop, don't you? To be over with?" Hot tears escaped Izzy's eyes as she nodded. She was so tired of being bullied and mistreated. She wanted the notes that told her to kill herself, that she was ugly and fat, to go away. She wanted to end the hair pulling and being tripped every day as she walked those long hallways into her classrooms where the teachers pretended not to see. Monica leaned in close and whispered, "Don't be afraid. This is just a test, silly. When you stand up there with that noose around your neck, it will prove to everyone that you belong and that you're one of us." Monica kissed her on the cheek, then quietly stepped back. "You only have to stand there with the rope around your neck for a few seconds. Then we'll help you down." "You promise?" God, Izzy remembered how pathetic she sounded that night. Her own weakness made her almost as sick as Monica's reassuring smile when she helped her up onto the chair. "I promise." Monica stepped back and watched as Izzy reluctantly put the rope around her neck. Knees quaking, Izzy stood as her eyes searched the anxious faces below. Izzy tried to reason with herself, tried to rationalize what she was doing. Maybe the other girls had been through this test too. Maybe they each had to prove themselves to Monica. That had to be it. Why else would they all just stand there and go along with this? Then there was a sudden jerk of the rope as Monica ruthlessly kicked the chair out from beneath her. Though fragmented, Izzy remembered the startled gasps from the other girls as searing pain tore through her tender flesh. Izzy would never forget the terror that she had experienced when she tried to scream and realized that she was no longer able to breathe. Panic reigned in Izzy's mind as her hands clawed at the rope that strangled her and her legs swung wildly beneath her, desperate to find the missing chair. Izzy reached out to Monica and found her friend backing away with a sick, satisfied smile on her face. Black dots floated before Izzy's eyes as the veins within them snapped and burst from the pressure. In her final feeble attempt to live, Izzy reached a hand out to the group of girls who stood like statues behind Monica. Desperate for help, Izzy tried to plead with them, but could only gag and choke as the rope tightened. From the corner of her eye, Izzy spotted one of the other girls trying to push past Monica and rush toward her. But Monica yanked the girl back by her side, and they all just stood there and watched her twitch. Too late, Izzy realized no one would be saving her. There would be no second chances, no acceptance ever, because 2 short heartbeats later, she died. Angry, Izzy shot to her feet. Dying like that had been bad enough, but what had come next was unimaginable. There had been no peace, no moving on. For reasons she still did not understand, her violent, meaningless death had tied her to Monica, and she had been stuck watching Monica live out her life torturing others ever since. Izzy slid up next to the bed, laid a small hand on Emily's shoulder, and peered down at the professor. Monica had been cruel, not only to her, but to all of them, especially this man. Was Emily right? Could Mr. Bolton find a way to free them? God, she hoped so. Still, as they each stood there, gathered around the professor's bed, listening to his erratic heartbeats, Izzy wondered, will the man live long enough to even try? And now you know Izzy's backstory. Next, we will get to Andrea, who is the next victim of Abigail, and one of the 5 Vengeful Spirit stories. Yeah, such a good book, such a good book. And don't forget, we do have video series coming up starting on Friday, and we're going to start that whole series off with the lead actor from the movie for Vengeful. His name is Craig Beeman. You can catch that, like I said, on Friday. And if you're watching this in the future, after we've already recorded it, you can go back and just look. We'll have it there on the channel. Yeah, so there you go. So in the comments below, let me know what you think. Share this out with your friends. We'll be starting a new book soon as we get done with the Vengeful Ghosts. And we'll go from there. We'll see you next time here on the Reading Corner on Dreamers Defy.